30 years.
Wow.
And I practice for immigration, U.S. immigration law. My practice is international in scope with clients throughout in and outside the United States,
Well,
all over the U.S.
I can say you're expert in immigration. 30 years, a 30-year span.
Yes, sir.
All right, congratulations. And we want to say welcome to the Talk on the Block. I hope it's not the first time.
Hopefully.
Let me thank my recommender, Mr. Paben. Good afternoon to you, sir. Good afternoon. So, sir, we've been asking questions as it relates to immigration, and on top of the agenda this morning were persons saying whether they have the rights to come back to vote if you have an American passport. Whether you'll be breaking the laws of America, and if you are a holder of an American passport, whether you could come home to vote in Dominica. Let's clear that issue first.
Yes, certainly you can. U.S. citizen, there's no prohibition in U.S. law for a citizen who is dual citizen to vote in another country.
Okay.
And just as a dual U.S. citizen residing in the United States or even residing outside the United States could vote in a U.S. election.
Okay.
So there's no prohibition in U.S. law against that at all. I think any restrictions may be the law where the people vote outside the United States rather than the United States.
Okay. That issue is cleared. Now, traveling from the U.S., what would you advise people, Dominicans who are both citizens of America and Dominica, when they leave the U.S., what would be advised? What's the passport they should travel with?
I mean, someone who's a U.S. citizen, they could travel with a U.S. passport. That's not a problem. At least when they're returning to the U.S., they must present a U.S. passport. Otherwise, if they present a foreign passport, that would be issues. But they could travel with a U.S. passport even to Dominica. I know for a lot of people, if you present a U.S. passport going in Dominica, then you are a visitor.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? If they present a Dominican passport, that's a different issue. But if you present a U.S. passport, that means you're coming in as a U.S. citizen into the country.
So you present a Dominican passport, just say by mistake, what could happen to you?
When you're coming back to the United States?
Yeah, when you're coming back to the United States.
Obviously, they're going to look at a visa. Where's your visa? you know, because the sovereign, you don't have a visa and you present a foreign passport. And so there would be issue if the person make a mistake and say, hey, I meant to put. Obviously, it will be based on the immigration officer understanding. And they may send them for secondary inspection so that they could clarify that.
I've been told that ICE is on a rampage in the U.S. right now. What would be your advice to persons who may be living in the U.S. at this stage?
I mean, yeah, go on.
Yes, that are illegal, that have overstayed.
Okay.
They're welcome.
People have overstayed, undocumented folks. Obviously, I mean, as usual, I'm going to tell you, anyone who has overstayed in the U.S., their presence is unlawful, so they are subject to removal. It has not been a major priority before, although if during investigation they find those individuals, they may still place them in removal. But obviously now the president decided he's going to enforce every aspect of U.S. law, and there's an emphasis on removing individuals who are undocumented or who have violated their visa. And I'm going to tell a lot of folks who come here and they have tourist visas and they work in the U.S., then their visa is automatically done once you engage in employment. So individuals would be they are subject to removal from the country. But if you are, then you should try to at least get documented in such a way, apply for adjustment of status if you're eligible. Otherwise, just be careful. But it may be difficult for some individuals. I know they need driver's license if you're undocumented. And that creates some problems for individuals traveling on public transportation. Public buses may not be an issue, but generally interstate Carriers like Greyhound could be an issue because they stop those buses a lot of time, knowing that a lot of immigrants, undocumented people, use those means. So just be careful. If you have a means of getting yourself situated, try to get situated. A lot of people can get situated, but a lot of people are scared for no reason. And the longer they're scared, it will create a perpetuation of their current status rather than trying to get their legal options for a lot of people. I mean, even people who come into the country sometimes, if you're coming in someone's fake passport or fake visa, there may be options you were clearly inspected and you could adjust, but there's issues about waivers. But just seek the right help for a lot of people. A lot of people do not go to attorneys. They go to people filling out forms. I know a lot of times it's a financial situation, but it's not as helpful to them. It could be more detrimental in the long run.
Let's just say somebody's is on a visitor's visa, and that person, for example, decide, you know what, I met the right guy, I'm going to marry the right guy, and you're found trying to wait for that visa or that passport or the right papers. Do you have to go back to your country, or will you have to go back to your country before you're rectified?
Well, it all depends. I mean, if people who are currently in the U.S. could marry if they're in a bona fide marriage, can apply to adjust their status. They don't have to leave the country. And sometimes you could be placed in removal, but if you marry someone and we could prove that the marriage was not solely to avoid deportation, you may still be able to adjust your status here. So, I mean, even people who have overstayed could adjust their status. Adjustment means for applying for a green card, from a tourist visitor to a legal permanent resident. So one could always do that, regardless, as long as you're present in the U.S. But it would be better to get married before you're detained, So that's, at the end of the day, you still have to prove that the marriage is bona fide. Don't just marrying someone means you're going to get a green card in the U.S. That it's not like that. It has never been that way. You still have to show that the marriage is a bona fide marriage. When we say bona fide, it means it was meant to share your life with that person, the U.S. citizen, and not just for immigration purposes.
No, if the person is a green card holder, would that still stand if you marry a green card holder and not a citizen?
Well, the big difference if you marry to a green card holder, although that person could petition for you, but because there's a waiting time in that category. An immigrant visa is not immediately available to you if you marry to a green card holder, and if you overstay, you cannot get a green card based on that marriage to a green card holder. So there's some issues with that based on timing, the length of time, and if you overstay, then the person have to be a citizen in order to get a green card. So there are limitations, but and that category used to be current several years ago, and if you did marry someone, because if the category is current, yes, you could stay and get the green card, but nowadays it's not current. There's a couple of years wait in that category right now. So you may have to leave the country, and go back and forth and try to go through the process outside. Or if you happen to visit and the category is current, you stay and you could adjust your
status. Interesting. So, what kind of advice? I mean, with Trump, it appears that a lot of immigration laws have changed. So, what advice would you give Dominicans who may be illegal or who may want to overstay at this time?
Well, I wouldn't say the laws have changed. The laws are the same. There have been no new laws. It's just enforcement priorities. This administration is going to be strictly enforcing the rules. So if you overstay, yes, you will be subject to removal. And if they detain you, they may not release you until you go through your immigration process. But being detained sometimes, people have a right to bond, and we could get bond for a lot of individuals. If you have a basis to stay in the country or to get legal status in the country, then you may not be detained or you'll be released, while you go through the process. But I would say if obviously one need to at least comply with the conditions on a visa. A tourist visa is to visit solely for pleasure. not to work, not to assist anybody whatsoever, not to give birth or any of that. All of those are a violation of the visa. And you may have the visa, but by just the conduct, accepting employment, helping someone out in a job, that means your visa is no good. You have the visa, but legally, under the law, it's an invalid visa and your presence is unlawful. So observe the condition of the visa if you can. And if there's a basis, to adjust your status, then try to do that.
Very, very interesting. I want to go back to the issue of voting in Dominica. Because some persons feel if you come to a country and you break the rules or break the law, engage in voting, what many in Dominica consider may be quote unquote illegal, would that be an issue?
Well, I mean, anyone who violates laws anywhere and is arrested and convicted have issues if you're not a citizen of that country. If you're a citizen of the U.S. and you break the laws outside the country, then there will be no immigration repercussions for you. So I will tell you, I know a lot of people talk about that. U.S. citizens who are dual citizens could vote in another country. That's not a problem, just as they could vote in U.S. elections if they are legitimate dual citizen and they comply with U.S. law. So the voting is not an issue. Any kind of problems as it relates to voting, as I said, is always going to be based on the other country's laws rather than U.S. law. But anyone who is not a citizen who violates the laws of, for example, a green card holder who has an arrest for whatever purpose that we would deem the moral turpitude offense, could have problems coming back to the U.S. and could be subject to deportation, yes.
But the question we have in Dominica, and is about to change, we're talking about residency. So you have to be in the country for some time before you vote. But a lot of people seem to have been breaking the rules. Would that be an infringement of the law?
Well, listen, breaking a rule is not a problem. We go by in the U.S., for example, the sanctions and immigration sanctions generally flow from convictions. You understand? Mm-hmm. So if someone is not charged and convicted for an offense in a foreign country, then it's not going to have no immigration consequence when they're coming back to the U.S. So, if the person is convicted of a charge, for example, illegally voting, that could be a moral turpitude offense. If, say, for example, they're arrested in Dominican charge and for illegally voting in Dominica, then could be viewed as I said, a crime of moral turpitude. And if it's viewed as such, coming back to the U.S., if the person is not a citizen, then that person could be in what we call, would be inadmissible and could be in removal proceedings in the U.S. But if they have evidence of that conviction.
I was about to ask, you have to have the evidence, though.
Right, the person must have a conviction. That's why we do not go by, it have to be a conviction. So they would have to be convicted in Dominica, go through a criminal process and convicted, not just an accusation,
All right.
So a court of law they'd have to go through a court of law and the judge would have to judge the person guilty of the offense, or they take a plea to the offense.
Mr. Loblack, any further comments before you go?
Well, not really, but I'm just saying, as it relates to immigration in the U.S., yes, things are tough, things are difficult. People still have rights, and there's always an opportunity to avail yourselves of the legal rights in the U.S. to get a green card or to visit freely with family and friends. But having a tourist visa does not guarantee you admission into the U.S. That had always been the rules. So just be practical, honor the rules, and everything will be fine.
All right, Mr. Loblack, thank you for speaking with us this afternoon. It was a pleasure. Thank you. A top U.S. attorney there on immigration, Mr. Peter Loblack. based in the Miami area. 139. Hello, talk to me.
Good afternoon, Matt Peltier.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
One observation, I was happy when you asked the gentleman in terms of the immigration law, what has been changed. And when he referred to you, nothing has not been changed. The law has always been there, just that it's been enforced. So I was happy to hear that, because based on the question you're asking, what has been changed? Nothing has not been changed, just that you have to enforce the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So Trump is actually enforcing the law or the laws. This is what has changed based on. Hello, talk to me, yes?
I said love, life, right, healing, joy, gratitude, courage, and sacrifice. Mr. Pelty, blessings to your family, sir.
Blessings to you, sir. Blessings.
Matt, thank you. Matt, I listened to you on the gentleman then for a moment. There somebody called me, so I was a little bit distracted. I may have missed the answer to the questions I'm looking for. Matt, you have in Puerto Rico and in the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Thomas and St. Croix, where they are not legally, they are not supposed to take part in the mainland election, that is in the U.S. election, unless they're resident in the U.S. Isn't that so, Matt?
From what I gather.
Okay, and the other day I listened to a fella calling you and tell you, yes, he does get his ballot and he does vote, and that's just a blatant lie, and a clear lie, an obvious lie. Matt, can you remember when we had Skerrit helter-skelter to revoke his French passport?
I remember.
Matt, didn't he wrote to St. Lucia, the French embassy in St. Lucia, for a revocation of his citizenship, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Matt, let's say he was a dual citizenship. As the prime minister, a fella tell me, prime minister, well, the both of them goes. He cannot contest election, or he could not have been a prime minister or a candidate as a dual citizenship. Look at the sensitivity, and they say the law is on earth, of the situation. A prime minister, a power rep, but then if a citizen holds dual citizenship, though the law in America does not restrain them from coming to Dominican vote, but Matt, the law of Dominica have its requirements within the Constitution. The requirements for voting in Dominica, what Skeleton them want to do, Matt, is remove it. The dual citizenship still holds. Vince say he thinking it's remote as an appliance for removing the 5-year requirement. But Matt, the law for you being a candidate as a dual citizenship, it still stands. Isn't that so, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
So Matt, how illogical to try to reverse or ignore or erase the requirements of the Constitution based on our elections requirements, Matt, to accommodate bribery and cheating and corruption and the thievery of elections for a couple of years. I don't know if you're following my arguments, you know, Matt.
I'm following.
Yeah, so I thought you would have taken him to that depth, but you ask a lot of relevant questions, and I know you can ask all questions. But the brother, I hope he may be listening. How comes the requirement is there to not have a dual citizenship, a dual citizen contest for elections to be prime minister or a parliament or a minister of government, and you're telling me some like a Dominican who visit maybe every year for carnival and is not residency. You visit in every year. Residency, it does not confirm you being resident in Dominica. You're visiting Dominica as a Dominican, but resident is to have a place of abode. That's where I'm waking up, going to bed. Maybe I travel for 2 weeks, but I come back. It's in Dominica. I am residing. So it is very sad to see the way.
You're making a very important point, Blessings, because I mean, the U.S. citizens can participate in terms of being a candidate in Dominica, but they're allowed to vote. You know that is to me very troubling.
Run that by me again, sir.
All right, so they can't, like for example, Sam Raphael had to revoke his citizenship to participate in the election, or anybody like our ambassador, he had to revoke, and he was told he can't. You understand where I'm coming from? But we are allowed now to vote in elections in Dominica.
Damn. And that is the contradiction. That's the paradox, Matt. How can for some or anybody else that wants to take part in election have to revoke their dual citizenship or the other citizenship because they're already Dominican, for them to contest, and then anybody that lives Dominica for 20 years, 30 years, American citizen, voting in the America election match, in the American election, and then you get bribed to come down to Dominica and vote. Matt, can you talk to Trump, Matt? I don't think they will want to kill you, but Matt, can you give me Trump number?
I heard the delegation is now getting ready to talk to Trump, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, and let me extend my condolences to Gabriel and Sam Christian.
Yes.
I heard the mom passed. My condolences to them, Matt. Blessings.
Thank you. Now, somebody's warning. Some persons are engaged, Some people are engaged in reporting other Dominicans who may be illegal in the U.S. You should stop that, somebody's asking. I need you to ask those moral sergeants who want to report persons, that's what one person is saying, to other Dominicans or other Dominicans who are in fraudulent marriages. Even with citizenship, any of those postulating are guilty if it is. Because it seems to me morality and outstanding behavior is only applicable to sometimes. People, be careful. The pits you may dig for other persons will demarcate you in the end. And some persons are actually being paid $1,000 reward to report a person on that issue. Imagine how much money one could make when they know for a fact. Duel, a fight for a weapon to settle some honor or some honor. Dual citizenship consists of two parts: double Jesus. So please, those of you who may be engaged in reporting persons who want to get married to get their papers, be very, very careful. That person is alleging at this time. Hello, talk to me, yes?
Good afternoon, Matt.
Good afternoon to you.
Matt, I called your program this morning, and I presented a scenario that I wanted Dr. Dion George to give me some information on.
Okay.
Some people, like your last caller this morning, may have misunderstood what I said. When I started off, I said, the first thing I said, I do not support or condone in any way anybody coming from the diaspora just to vote in Dominica. That was my first statement. I also presented in the scenario that I wanted to find out about someone who is staying their own way to Dominica to vote, who is in Dominica every year, not 3 or 4 times a year like the caller said, and that they meet the residency requirement because they have an address in Dominica. So, and then the caller personalized it, which is okay. So this is the situation. This is my situation. I've never voted in Dominica. I'm way past voting age. I have never voted in Dominica. But if I'm to vote in Dominica, I want to do it right. I want to do it legal. That's why I presented the scenario. And I want to know from a professional like Dr. Dion George what this involves. Okay? So the person...
In other words, you come to Dominica very often. Do you stay in that place? For how long do you stay in that place?
More than 4 months at a time, up to 6-7 months. And it is not somebody's home. It is the person's residence. So they pay taxes. The caller asks, do I pay taxes? Yes, I pay taxes. And when I stay in Dominica 4, 5, 6, 7 months, every day I go to the store, I'm paying taxes. I'm paying the Wasco, I'm paying Domlec, I'm paying all utilities. Okay? So this is the situation. This is not a scenario of somebody coming to Dominica 3 or 4 times just for a week or 2. Mm-hmm. So that is what I want to clarify. And the person told me, the person said for me to stay where I am. But I'm staying where I am, right here in DA. Okay? Mm-hmm. Where I've been for the last 7 months. And I'm expecting what I know of Dr. Dion George, I hope I will get. And I'm pretty sure I'll get a professional response from him, because we need to listen when somebody's presenting something and don't add and subtract and put what one wants into it. Because some of the facts the lady mentioned this morning, I never stated. But what I really stated was not mentioned.
Okay, caller, I think I get your point. I see nothing wrong with that. 150. But we'll have the professionals comment on that. If you're in Dominica for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, why would you not be allowed to vote? Hello, talk to me. Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Matt, and your listeners. How are you doing today?
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Now, I just want to ask you a question. Are you a registered voter in Dominica?
Am I? Yes, I am.
Do you vote?
When the opportunity is presented.
Okay, when you go to vote, does the poll clerk or the presiding officer ask you whether you are living overseas, how long you live there, and where you live presently?
Because I know that they know my status. I'm in Dominica for how many years? I don't go. I mean, I visit overseas, but I don't live there. I don't think somebody in my community would ask me that question.
But if they know you were living overseas,
if they know, if
they would ask you that
if we should were hustlers, beggars would write, I don't know, and that would be their responsibility.
Okay. Now you see, some people confuse residence with registration. So if you are living overseas for 30 years and you have never voted in Dominica, you have never registered in Dominica, when you come home and you want to vote, you have to live there for 90 days in any constituency, and then you go and register to be a voter. But if you are already a registered voter and you come down to Dominica to vote, that has nothing to do with residence, because you're already a registered voter.
No, but I mean, you have to explain that you've been in that community living there. So you can just. The question is, can you just come in? You've been out of Dominica for more than 5 years, so you think you can just come in and vote because you're on that list? I'm asking you.
Once you are on the list.
But that's very unfair. You're out of Dominica for 5 years, so once you're on the list, the law does not permit that. Once you're on the list, do you expect to vote?
That has nothing to do with the law. The law does not say if you are on the list, you cannot vote. The law
but if you're living out of Dominica for more than 5 years, you have to be struck out on that list.
The law does not say what you are saying, Matt.
I'm saying if you're out of Dominica, according to the laws, you have to be out on that list, out of the list.
To register to vote.
You're basically confusing. You're trying to confuse. 1:53 is the afternoon time. Hello, talk to me. Yes.
My brother, just quickly, Matt, this morning I did not call your program. I was at the hospital just to get to know. My doctor would not show up. There was a clinic, and so I spent, when I was coming down, a guy turned on his radio. There was a big argument about all that election and residency and all the kind of madness. And I get caught up in the arguments. I was not listening to the program. So I hear the last lady refer to your last caller. I hope it's not me, ma'am, because...
No. It's a lady who called. It wasn't you, bless. It wasn't you.
Okay, because and not anybody that is trying to snitch on each other for the authorities to have them deported, that is evil. The other thing, Matt, I just hear your last call. I'm referring to the last call. I pick up his voice. Matt, he said residence and registration. Residence and residency are two different categories. Are you agreeing with me, Matt?
Of course.
You could resident in a place temporarily. Residency, that's where you are the majority. Matt, isn't that so, Matt?
That's so.
The majority of the time, that's where, like Matt Pelty, he is resident in Dominica. So he can claim residency in Dominica, even if he visits America once a year or twice a year, but he's resident in Dominica. Matt, I did not go to school, but I have like a basic understanding of the English language.
Common sense. Common sense. It's clear.
So common sense itself is not even about education. Common sense, discretion. And I am just saying, Matt, look at how criminal this administration is. Matt, the last snap election, Matt, did anybody... Have they imported anybody from overseas, Matt? Did they?
No, not that I know.
They did not import nobody because they realized they have nobody to as a contendant or a contestant, if I may use that word, nobody was a contesting election. Nobody contended with them. So guess what? They just figure out, well, yeah, man.
It's a walkover.
People like Dominica.
And it's a walkover. Yes.
Huh?
And it's a walkover because nobody's contesting.
Nobody's contesting. So you see the corruption, they refuse and they know it's a waste of the country's resources to get Dominicans that are resident overseas, all right, to come to vote in Dominica. The elections can be determined in the absence of people that live in overseas. It has nothing to do about disenfranchising. Voiding people the privilege to do things. But we have ham and turkey and many other privileges where the people are being disenfranchised. Let us say they just want to narrow it down. Disenfranchising is preventing people from voting.
Yep.
Let us take disenfranchising to the next level, Matt. Matt, you know the amount of Dominicans that are disenfranchised, and I'm giving it that, where foreigners are working, the Chinese are taking over our work. The Chinese and Gadakan and Anthony Hayden, they're building all the garbage in Dominica, and our people have to run to Antigua, Tortola, Anguilla, to my own description and definition. That is the worst form of disenfranchising Dominicans, because the elections can be determined in the absence of prying in people to vote, Matt. That is just evil, Matt, and a waste of resources. And that kind of, in closing, Matt, the thing they have created, the brokenness they have created, or the scarcity of finance, Matt, that is artificial. It is artificial. We have billions stashed away. That's why those criminals can come during election and see the opening of St. Joe Carnival, the opening of that carnival, have all big entertainment. Where they get in the money, and security telling me, the World Choral Festival, up to now she cannot get paid. A police was there cursing all of them and say they haven't gotten paid, Matt. So you see how these criminals and how many tickets compliments the Prime Minister's office. These are criminals, Matt, and we have to stop them. Thank you.
All right, thank you too. 1:57 is the afternoon time. And this is the Talk on the Block. Hello, yes. Hello.
Good afternoon to you and your listeners at home and abroad.
All right, good afternoon to you, Johnson, Boston.
Johnson, Boston, yes. The caller called before the last caller there and talked about being on the list. When he got on the list, he was residing in a polling division. He had to live there for 3 months, okay, before he get on the list, and he had to be 18 and above. That's when you get on the list. You don't get on the list by a miracle. Your name does fall on the list. You got on the list by a process which is established in law. And it says if you live out of state for more than 5 years uninterrupted, then you ought not to vote, ought not to be on the list to vote. That's the law. Then if you are on the list and you're coming into Dominica frequently for Carnival, for Christmas, Work Festival and those things, So within the 5 years you're visiting, and an election is called while you are on island, then you can go at the polling station in your polling division. You cannot leave. Let's say, for example, I'm from Mahu, okay? Then I register in Mahu, what you call FO3 in Mahu. I can go to Massac and vote in a different poll, although it's the same constituency, but I can't vote in another polling division. I have to vote where I registered, which is FO3 in the Mahu constituency. Okay? Now, if you are overseas and your name's on the list, you're visiting it off and on within the 5 years, and an election is calling, you're so interested in the election, you pay your way. You go to the flight people, the travel people, you pay your tickets, and you come and vote because you are interested in voting for the wealth and well-being of the state of Dominica, where people live. You may not be living there by the time but you're on the list going back and forth within the 5 years, so you come and vote. You ought not to wait for a gift to come and vote and have an argument, because you have no commitment when you get a gift to what you're putting, what you're doing. You just vote for the gift that you receive. And those who are focused on development and improvement of the country, they are the ones that are being disenfranchised because they're living there. They're getting their bed minimum and go and vote while you are living abroad and you get a gift to come and vote. So I don't see why these people have this argument about we're trying to disenfranchise them, because that doesn't make sense. You get on the list because you live in a polling division for 3 months. You're 18 years and above, you register. So you can go to Bangkok, wherever you go to, you live there, you're coming back to Dominica within the 5 years, then you're on the list, you can vote. But you have to vote. If you're on island, you vote second place, you go and vote. If you're off island, you pay your way and come and vote. So it shows that you have a commitment to development. This argument about trying to defend these things that has been clearly explained to those people, they make a mess out of it. What happened to the Labour Party and the Prime Minister? Give people the impression that, well, there's a fight between us here and the overseas. No. The law is the law. In Jamaica, for example, they have the same proviso of 5 years. They're now discussing whether they should move it to 10 years. So that's what the argument should be, whether they move it from 5 to 10. Because there are more Dominicans overseas than in Dominica. Vincent Henderson spoke about people who vote from other places and so forth, and their country along that. These are just 1% or less than 1%. So it doesn't really affect the election on those who live in the country and expecting to be governed by what they vote for. This is very clear. So this argument about trying to disenfranchise them doesn't make sense, Matt, because you're out of state, you're out for more than 5 years, you ought not to come and vote, because what you're doing, you're messing up the country, and election has consequences. Matt, thank you so much.
Just simple. If you're out of Dominica for more than 5 years, just go and re-register. That's it. 2:02 is the afternoon time. Hello, talk to me, yes?
Matt, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Matt, I'm a constant listener of yours and I'm a constant caller. But I just want to beg you about a minute and a half from this or something. If I take all that, Matt and all Dominicans, it is immoral for people who live in overseas like me to come to Dominica to vote, whether you go there 2 times, 3 times a year. Matt, the reason why I'm telling you that is because I used to pay my way to come to vote for the United Workers' Party, Matt. And Matt, my wife keep on telling me it is wrong. I said, but how it's wrong? Because the law says if you pay your own way, you know, there's nothing wrong. And Matt, one day when I make up my mind to go again, that thing strike me. My wife is saying it is immoral. That thing strike me saying, but when the slave masters were beating the slaves, it was legal for them to do. It was lawful for them to do. But Matt, it was something that was immoral. And so I look at it, and Matt, from that day, I decided to myself, anytime a man or woman living in America, in Tortola and St. Thomas, Matt, things better with them than home. Why should we go to Dominica, vote for a party, and come back to Tortola, go back to the United States, go back to America, drive your jeep, do everything nice than the people in suffering? Not anybody who have a godly conscience, any person that said they believe in Christ and cannot understand it is wrong, something is wrong with them. They do that kind of thing. They taking money. They do everything that is biblically wrong. Because this thing is simple. Something that very simple. The people are living
I
in
suspect.
country. They're the ones that going through the grind. Let them take their decision. That's all I have to say, Mark. Thank you.
Good afternoon to you. 2:04 is the afternoon time. It appears that the government will not reinforce or not enforce the laws because they will lose elections. Therefore, Dominicans will continue to come to Dominica to vote and leave the next day. Based on Mr. Loblack's perspective, it is not against the law to vote in Dominica or the US with dual citizenship. Who's going to enforce the law? When this question is answered, only then will we have legal voting in Dominica. That's a perspective there from a WhatsApp message. Hello, talk to me.
Matt, good afternoon. My name is Clarence Christian.
Yes, Clarence.
And I've been hearing people, your callers, quoting law, and nobody can quote the sections of the law. Let me tell you something. In Dominica, you have the Constitution, you have statutes passed by Parliament, you have statutory rules, SRNOs, and then you have case law. In Dominica, there are no residency requirements for voting. Let me repeat that. There are no legal residency requirements for voting. The residency requirement in the Constitution at Section 33(2)A and enforced by Section 33(2)B is for registration. Once you are registered, duly registered, and an objection has not been upheld against you to be on the voters list, and you are given due process, the right to be heard, and the right to appeal, your name cannot be removed from the
Clarence, what about the rule of the law that states that if you're out of Dominica for more than 5 years, you should be removed from that list?
Very good, very good. I know you were going to come with that.
Uh-huh.
If you are out of Dominica for more than 5 years,
right,
there has to be an objection for your name to be removed.
How many people have, Clarence, let's be real, how many people who have come in to vote and have been in Dominica, out of Dominica for more than 5 years, Clarence? Let's get real. Let's get real. And we have seen any objection on that?
Listen to me. There must be an objection.
I'm telling you, have we seen any objection to this rule? I'm asking you again, have we seen any objection to this rule?
Name from the voters list.
Have we, you remember Mr. Tony Asafan objecting and said, and basically threatening people who want to object, and they said they would be taking them to court? Have you heard that too?
Oh, let me tell you something. In Ferdinand Frampton versus Ian Pinard case law, the judge said, once your name is on the voters list and an objection have not been upheld against you, under due process, you have the right to vote.
You're coming back to the same point I'm trying to make. Have you seen any objection based on what is happening in Dominica, that persons are coming to vote, are living in Dominica live out of Dominica for more than 5 years and have been objected? Have you seen that?
Well, if people do not object to your name on the
But Clarence, we know what is happening in Dominica. We know just what is happening in Dominica and how we live in Dominica. People are fearful even if they object. That matter will be dragged on in court. Do you agree with me, Clarence?
But if you object to somebody's name on the...
Do you agree that if you object to somebody's name, do you agree that this matter will be dragged on in court?
But there is a process in law for objection. It only goes to court when you have an appeal.
Clarence, but the matter, we have seen the matter being dragged on the court until we get to the Court of Appeal, the highest court, the Caribbean Court of Appeal. And what happened to that matter?
But read the law.
I'm asking you, what happened to that matter? Why did the DPP not upheld that matter there? Why, Clarence? Why? You're talking about laws. Why? So you're breaking the law and you're still looking for persons to support you on that one? 208, Clarence. The highest court objected to that matter. 209 is the afternoon time. I don't know, man. Why is it that we want to uphold injustice? Sometime later, we'll try to present Mr. Joshua Francis and his team, UBP, who presented there in the Carib territory. Hello, talk to me, yes?
Yeah, Matt, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Matt, just listening to the conversation, right? They had the same issue in St. Kitts and Nevis, and them guys are very good. That's what Tony Asafan is also involved in St. Kitts debacle also. Them guys using this thing that once you are registered, you're entitled to vote. And that is not fair. I mean, once you're registered, you vote. But what about the dead people they're not on the list? They don't want to take them off the list. And there are laws and regulations. As I said, they have this 5 years. I can't talk about there's no residency requirement. So how you can do a residency requirement? So you live in New York for 15, 20 years, and you just come on and vote in La Plaine.
And leave the next day.
You just vote in Rosa Central, and leave the next day. Come on, that cannot be right. And them guys using this thing. Them lawyers, it's so that's what them, you know. Because they did the same thing in St. Kitts and Nevis. People ask for registration. They come down to confirmation. So if you, and that is why there's a big issue of you register, you vote where you live, register where you live. Because people will live in one area and register in another area. Now, if you move from one area to another area, like you move from Rosa Central to Rosa North, which are two different constituencies, you're supposed to change the registration. You see? That is what it requires. But again, them guys using this thing, boy, I'm telling you, but Kaba won't be nice to these guys because they know it's foolishness they're doing. And just to maintain the status quo and to believe that everybody's stupid and they don't know what's going on and talking about case law and this case law and that. So it's foolishness they're doing.
Trying to confuse people, that's all it is. Confusion.
They know it's nonsense they're doing. So they try their best to maintain the status quo because they're benefiting. And once everything says it is, but how can it be fair? Even like in my case, I had put somebody voting my name. I've been out of Dominican about 25 years, my name still on the list. Now you talk about if you're not objected to. But the objection process is another situation because they drag it on, as you say. People make objections. The last elections, a number of objections were made. And up to now, they haven't seen the daylight. There's a process. Let me give you a classic example, Matt. I made the husband and different. In Nevis, there was a situation in election of 2006, 2011 was the null and void. Because why? People's names were removed from the list without due process, right? They were removed from the list without due process. The process is when they objected to, you get a notice that you have to attend the hearing, right? What they did, the people who objected to, the hearing was, let's say, Monday today, right? The hearing was today, and the people got the notices on Wednesday coming, right? You understand what happened? The hearing was today, Monday, but people got the notice for the hearing on Wednesday coming, and the names were still removed from the list. So the judge of the clear-cut case, the judge had to show the thing and the election was did null and void, and that you were elected. But that is what the guys, that is just the courage that people can take the matter to court, but again, the legal system is all wrapped up. So them guys know what is going on. So they say, oh, go to court.
Exactly. That's what they do.
Yeah, that's what they do.
They drag it on.
Drag it on, and then election come and the same process. So these guys know what's going on, man. I mean, it's really sad to us. Really sad.
All right, caller, thank you very much. Let's see if we can take a voice note or two before we get to the next point there. Hello, yes?
Matt, good afternoon. So, if your name cannot be struck out of the voters list, no matter what if you have been out of Dominica for 5 years? So it can't be struck out when you're dead either. Because objections have been made. I remember when they cleaned up the Roseau Central list and they sent in them, because there must be a process, especially now where we have new improved passports. You should be able to tell a person hasn't been on Dominica for a period of time. And then what we should have done is put that in the law. Okay, 5 years is up, your passport number comes up in the system. They should be able to pull it up and say, okay, this person hasn't been back on Dominica for 5 years. Their name gets struck off the list. It's the same way. So what we have to do, go in the cemetery, pull up a person and tell them come and answer their case in the court too. But Clarence and them labor rights not making sense. So your name can't be removed on the list if you're dead. Your name can't be removed on the list if you're living out of Dominica for more than 5 years. So we will always have more people on the list than we have in the population. Because if all Dominicans in Antigua decide to come down to Dominica to vote, but we don't need Dominicans. We don't need Dominicans to choose the government these people want. I'm not even talking about people in the US. Why are we confusing that situation over and over and over? And why is it you're trying to pass a law to state that people can be in foreign for non-economic? You know what, Matt? They're supposed to give the credit union to do that for them. Because since you see you out of Dominica for 3 months, credit union don't want to hear ni ho ni ba. So you mean to tell me the credit union rules higher than the constitution of Dominica then? But credit union telling me I'm not a Dominican, I'm not living in Dominica. And Labour Party telling me it doesn't matter where I go, I can come back and vote. And credit union telling me I can't even make a change to my account because I'm not living in Dominica. So, so credit union play hope à c'est gouvernement Dominique. Parce que constitution Dominique. Mais ça pas qu'à faire sans ceci. Ça pas qu'à faire sans payer ça. Ça connaît plus de ça qui a fait l'Amérique parce que je connais un pays. Ça pas les mettre ouais un pays. Mais on les ronger ouais l'Amérique. Ça on est Didier.
I'm hearing it from a former prime minister who says, Matt, it's not true. That is only as a result of an objection that a name can be removed from the register. That is blatantly untrue. I think Clarence and these guys are on a propaganda campaign. Just now, the hyenas will say we try to disenfranchise the dead people on the list too. Wait for it. Tell Clarence we know more than he thinks we know. No tricks. You know, when you quote the Constitution and the laws, some people don't relate or can't relate. So they try to confuse the masses with the propaganda. Matt, I followed the law and objected to illegal registration in accordance with the law for 14 names that did not meet the residency requirements to be registered in the polling district in 2019 elections. The prescribed forms were used, and as required, 2 voters from the polling station signed the objection. Can you believe that these 14 illegal registered names were on the final list? I told you, Clarence pretends that he doesn't know. We'll wrap up the discussion there a little about 2:30, so we can present some of the information shared from the UPP at the Cairo Territory, the Kalinago meeting. $2.19 is the afternoon time. Talk to me. Overseas line. Are you there? Yes.
Yes, I am there. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Trying my best, sir.
Very good. Anyone coming to Dominica to vote from America should be deported on the spot when they decide to come back here the very next day. They should be deported. And the guy this morning with you had on the radio, he refused to say Dominica is a communist country. Yes, Dominica is a democratic country on paper, but in practice, Dominica is definitely a socialist country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. On the telephone, are you there, caller? Yes.
Just quickly, let me tell
yes.
you something. I know you have to transit. But there's a friend of mine who comes down to vote since after he left for the US. Matt, he went with his son, underage boy. He was about, 7, 8, maybe 9 years. And he, the father, coming down and vote consecutively, Matt. For him to find out his son that is underage, his name is on the list, Matt. And that is what that say, that break the camel back. And he say he can't come back Dominican vote. What kind of corruption is that? His son that is underage, Matt. Coming, he did not come to Dominican register. He's underage, and his name is on the list. So, Matt, when Clarence, Matt, the thing, it become a popular thing now, a jackass, afraid in the ass. When Clarence is coming and make an ass of himself, and you telling him, what about the 5-year requirement? Look, Vince saying, thank to my remote as the appliance, Carrot is the remote. You remove the 5-year requirement, Matt. You cannot, in a rule as a sportsman, you cannot change the rule just to accommodate one team, Matt. You cannot do that, and that is what they're doing. They're contaminating the whole process, Matt. And when people say they're good, they're not good, and the karma will not come. We have to take the karma to them. If all you want to know what is guerrilla warfare, fighting an invisible enemy, go on research, not to come to me, because me myself, I don't know. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. It's already 2:21 in the afternoon, 2:21. Stick around, Dominica, stick around. Hello, talk to me. Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Matt.
Yes, sir.
Matt, in all that discussion, I'm wondering where is the head of the commission, the electoral commission, or what the chairman, or whatever he is. But I've been talking about this. Isn't an education of the people part of his mandate? He has not said a word practically since he took that oath. When he took that oath, he said he would do his best. But we're not hearing him. Shouldn't he be the one educating the people about the laws? And even if the laws are in transition and they're trying to upgrade them, shouldn't he be, there with the people, talking to them, educating them? Enough said, Matt. Thank you.
Good afternoon again. Good afternoon to you, yes?
Good afternoon. I got a question for you. Somebody said that they filed an objection to some names on the voter rolls, on the voter list. Did you ask them when did they file the objection? Because the last I remember,
He said in 2019. He said that. I read that.
Yeah, yes, I know. What time in reference to the election day?
What time?
I remember. In reference to the election day. somebody filed an objection on election day, and you cannot do that. Okay, you can't do that because, like Karen said, there's a process, right? And the person who is objecting against has to have time for a hearing. They might not be present, right? They need an attorney to represent them, right? So people just talking, right? And I would suggest that you stop just reading WhatsApp messages.
This person I'm talking to is no ordinary person, my friend. The person knows what they are talking about, okay? So you can't dismiss the point that the person made. I know he's not no ordinary person I'm talking to. I won't disclose, but I know he's not no ordinary person. Hello, talk to me, yes?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Malpech. I'm going to state my name for the record.
Okay.
My name is Paul Alexander.
Yes, sir.
I reside in the U.S. Virgin Islands for many, many years. I'm always voting in Dominica during election. I also ran for the Senate in St. Thomas. When I was running for the Senate, I sent 2,000 absentee ballots to Dominica to my supporters I know who retired as naturalized citizens from St. Thomas and moved back to Dominica. They had to vote on this absentee ballot and mail them back to the elections office in St. Thomas. Also, Santo Domingo, second largest voting bloc, are people who live overseas, 860,000 people who vote from outside for their candidates in Santo Domingo. No, they do not have to go to Santo Domingo to cast their votes. They stay overseas and cast that vote and send it to Santo Domingo. So the voting bloc overseas is the second largest voting bloc of people from Santo Domingo, the second largest constituency. So that tells you that we in Dominica, what we are doing is modernizing, where we should be even going in the direction of Santo Domingo, where instead of coming down to vote, we should be able to stay where we are and cast our vote.
Well, the question is not about Santo Domingo. We're asking a question about Dominica. We're saying if you're out of Dominica for more than 5 years, you should be struck off the list unless you want to re-register. That's what I'm talking about.
They see my name, and then they give me my ballot. All of them know I live overseas. Not once have them said, Mr. Alexander, you know you're not supposed to be voting, because at the polling station, remember, there are agents from all political parties.
Mr. Alexander, you're talking about cheese. Are you talking about chocolate? We're talking about cheese. You're going all over the place. Just stick to the question. All right, caller, thank you. 226. Hello, talk to me, yes?
Matt, I'll be very quick.
Yes, quickly.
I had to call twice. But I mean, when you listen to Paul and you listen to Travis Christian, he's a person I had very high respect for. I know Paul for a long time. He contested. You already tell you he contested the Senate in St. Thomas, but he haven't said a word of contesting the election in Granby. He haven't said that. These guys can't operate in their life as these deceptional persons, these honest persons. They must talk the truth. And you were right to tell him, talk about Santo Domingo, talk about Dominica. And what we are saying is, if you're on the list, you were in the polling division in Dominica, you register, so you went away and leave or study and you stay there working, you're on the list. If an election is taking place and you come in between the 5-year period, then you can vote. Nobody deny you that. What they're saying to you is that if you're out for more than 5 years uninterrupted off the list, what is so hard to understand that? And secondly, if you're also interested in participating in the process, because you're in and out of the state within the 5 years, pay your rent. Paul was share. I understand from reliable sources that people like this person who called a while ago was out there sharing money for persons to come into Dominica. So don't come and try to show as it well you're trying to represent the truth. Because when you listen to these people, it tells you these people are involved in things that are not making our election free and not making our election fair. And if you want to educate people, you have to be fair, you have to be sincere in what you're saying, and you have to try to educate people on what matters. When Clarence Collins says nobody quoting the law, I expect him to go and quote the law and see what the law says. He come there trying to argue with you. So you're telling me you're encouraging people to go to the polling station to vote just for people to have objection? That's what you encourage people to go and vote. Just to have objection, you encourage people to go and vote if they are within the law of voting. That is so simple. And I can understand how these guys, what are they trying to protect or defend? To me, it's sickening. Thank you, Matt.
All right, thank you again. Thank you. We're going to take a break. We'll come right back, Dominica. All right, come back. Mm-hmm.
We are open 7 days a week with the top of the line products. Well stocked supermarket and pharmacy, health and beauty care, fresh produce and meats prepared daily, hot and cold kitchen, ready to go meals, sandwiches, salads, and desserts at your fingertips. Easy access, located on the bayfront, environment friendly, and our staff are approachable and ready to assist. Have you figured out who we are? You got it. Your one stop. Everybody don't come and your pocket don't touch you. Fresh market, never disappointed. Fresh market. Dominicans, enjoy your property, protect your property. You homeowner and businessman, protect your property, enjoy your property. Can't wait for the hurricane, can't wait till you flood again, can't wait till your roof fly out and all your business coming out. Remember, no insurance company will insure your property when a storm is approaching. Get ahead of the hurricane season and insure with a company who gives you the assurance of payment for your valid claim. Come speak with us today at the New India Assurance Company Limited, upstairs AC Shillingford and Company Limited, 24 King George Street, Roseau. Bring along an up-to-date valuation from a qualified engineer and get insured today.
All right, it's 2:30 in the afternoon. Let's take our final voice note on this subject, and we'll move on to the UPP and the presentation they made at the Kalinago territory there on Saturday night. Yes.
Good afternoon, Matt, and good afternoon to all Dominicans. Matt, what Paul Alexander is trying to say is that if you have never been registered to vote, then you have to live in the constituency for 3 months before you can get registered to vote. What he's saying, it is not taking into consideration persons living abroad and coming home to Dominica to sabotage the elections. Paul is making a free pass for these people. He's making his own law for those people, although Paul Alexander, knows that some of those people have already violated the Constitution by being abroad for 5 consecutive years and not returning to Dominica. So in that circumstance, their names should not be on the voters list. And that is why the Electoral Commission in Dominica need to get up from their corrupt asses and do their work. That is why this Electoral Commission should not be tied in with the politics of the day, because they are doing Dominicans an injustice. They are doing the country a major injustice by not doing what they are supposed to do constitutionally. They're supposed to cleanse the voters list. They're supposed to remove all the names of the dead people on the list. Persons who have been abroad for 30, 40, 50 years are still on the list. Some of them have never returned to Dominica. Some of them are just waiting for that free ticket to come home to sabotage that Dominica's elections. So, Matt, the Electoral Commission need to do their work, and we need to take these people to task, Matt, because if they were doing their work, Matt, then we would not have had that problem. And they want to say that the Electoral Commission is independent of politics. It's an independent office. I don't see how independent that office is. When you have passport sellers, you have all crooks, wheelers and dealers selling citizenship and contending with the people that is economically. These are the people who have, the Marco mansions set up. These are the people who became millionaires on the backs of Dominicans in that same corrupt scheme. So they will never do what the Constitution says. And Matt, it's time we stop, begging for electoral reform, because electoral reform should not be begged for. All of the other sister islands have electoral reform. What is it that Dominicans cannot get up and demand electoral reform? What is it that we have to be begging a quasi-corrupt man with no scruples, no values, no integrity? This man has no patriotism. This man does not care about Dominica or its well-being. He only cares about himself. Because he's only working for himself. All he wants to do is stay in office under the diplomatic immunity. But he does not give one rat's ass about Dominica and the well-being of Dominicans. And look at what he has done. He has sunk Dominica into the abyss of poverty. He has sunk Dominicans into becoming second-class citizens. Look at what he has done to the Dominican people. He took away everything that was of sentimental value to them. And is that right, Matt? We have lost our legacy to Chinese and all other people. And then why? Because Dominica does not have electoral reform, and it hinges on corruption. It hinges on the fact that Skerrit gets free will and deal to do as he pleases. That is why we have to stand up and fight for electoral reform, which is the gateway to democracy. Thank you.
Now available at ESA Trading Limited Showroom Department, a wide range of household items and accessories. Plates in porcelain, ceramic, clear and colored. Bowls in glassware, plastic and porcelain. Pot sets and frying pan sets. Glasses for all occasions. Knife sets and cutlery. Water jugs and storage containers. Wooden spoon sets. Dish trainers. Chopping boards. Bath towels, shower curtains, and bed sheet sets, curtain rods, living room sets, recliners, and dining room sets, mats and rugs, and so much more. All at unbeatable prices. Visit us today. We are located at the corner of Kennedy Avenue and Dame Eugenia Charles Boulevard, Roseau. ESA Trading Limited, making a difference for you.
Dominicans, enjoy your property, protect your property. You homeowner and businessman, protect your property, enjoy your property. Can't wait for the hurricane, can't wait till you flood again, can't wait till your roof fly out and all your business coming out. Remember, no insurance company will insure your property when a storm is approaching. Get ahead of the hurricane season and insure with a company who gives you the assurance of payment for your valid claim. Come speak with us today at the New India Assurance Company Limited, upstairs AC Shillingford and Company Limited, 24 King George Street, Roseau. Bring along an up-to-date valuation from a qualified engineer and get insured today.
All right, Dominic, it's 2:36. We're about presenting the different views from the different political parties on this radio station. And on Saturday, I was present to at the Maho River, the Kalinago territory, for the first meeting of the UPP, United Progressive Party. That's where the party was launched. That's where they had their first meeting from 6 o'clock on Saturday. I've listened to Mr. Joshua Francis, one of the presenters on that day.
George, come up to the United States, especially.
Let's see if we can try to get back to that. Sorry about that. Yes, let's see if we can get back to that. Let's go.
Especially when I was going through my difficult times. And there were times I was tempted. I was tempted to just shut the doors on Dominica and go to the United States of America. But I was unsettled with that consideration because I felt that God had anointed me to do a job which was incomplete. So I stopped in Dominica, and during that time I kept saying I'm done, I kept coming back. And then I came to realize, Joshua, it is real. You have a job to do. And more so, when I took everything into consideration, I realized that this may be divine. So I remember asking my mother, why did you name me Joshua? Why did you give me that name Joshua? And she said to me that she looked at a movie of Moses and she fell in love with the character Joshua. So I said, well, maybe God had spoken to you from since I was in the womb. Everybody knows the story of Joshua. Everybody knows it was Joshua who led the Israelites to the promised land. And tonight I'm not saying that I'm responsible to take you, the people of Maori and the people of Dominica, out of the political bondage that we have been over the last 25 years into the promised land. All I am saying is that the name Joshua has meaning, and I will leave out that meaning. Joshua represents resilience, perseverance, endurance, and victory. So, brothers and sisters, the people of Mara River, you may ask, why did we start our first meeting here? Why Mara River? This morning, well, actually, it was yesterday, I called our prominent and distinguished historian and archaeologist, Mr. Lennox Honeychurch. I said, Mr. Honeychurch, I want to ask you a question. And the question is simple. Why is it this hamlet, this beautiful hamlet here in the Kalinago territory is called Mao River? And he said to me, the name Mao comes from the name of a plant. It comes from the name of a tree. He said it was the Kalinago people. The Kalinago people who came up with the name through the French colonial masters, Mao River. And then I thought about it from a spiritual point of view. And that takes me to Psalms 1. Although we hear the Dominican Labour Party singing the song, we shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water. All right? Now, it is true that, yes, it is true, but what the Labour Party is not saying is that for you to be like a tree planted by the rivers of water and bring forth fruit in due season, is that you must meditate on the Lord day and night. You must not sit in the seat of the scornful. You must not walk together with deceitful people. We must not assemble with corrupt people. And I'm not too sure whether I can stand here tonight to say that the Dominican Labour Party represents honesty. So this is just a political gimmick. But tonight it is not a gimmick. I believe that we are here by divinity. We are starting our first political meeting as a political party, a new party in Dominica, in Mao River. And I think what God is saying is that because we, the members of United Progressive Party, are true and honest, and we genuinely want to contribute to better lives in Dominica, that we will ask, unknowing to us, to start our first meeting, to plant our feet in Mao River. Because moving forward, indeed, we shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water and bring forth fruits for the people of Dominica. So, brothers and sisters, this is a process. I know that some of you who are hearing, probably hiding under a mango tree, behind a bus. I understand the fear that you have. You have an artificial fear. Can you imagine? Earlier tonight, I asked one or two persons to come to the meeting, and they said they cannot come, and I asked, why can't you come? I don't want them to see me. I don't want them to see me. Who are they you do not want to see you? Laborers. You fear that if you were to go to a meeting which is not organized by the Dominican Labour Party, that your name will not be on a list. On a list to receive a little goodie. Brothers and sisters, I'm going to speak to that tonight. Because it's really a shame that people throughout Dominica are afraid to show up at a protest, afraid to show up at a meeting, afraid to speak their mind. When I go through Dominica, people come to me to say, Joshua, holy struggle, let us fight. And I would say, the next protest that the opposition holds, show up. They don't show up out of fear. Fear is not of God, first of all. How can you wake up tomorrow morning to go to church, Papa Bodie? To serve a God that you say that you love. When he has told you the only force to fear in this life is him. Because it's only God who is in charge of both your soul and your body. It is not Roosevelt parents. So brothers and sisters, it is time that you step out of that fearful frame of mind. It is crippling you, and by extension, crippling the country. When the United Workers' Party came and removed the political neck of the Freedom Party in 1995, their motto and their theme was, fear no more. No, I'm not here on the United Workers' Party platform, but anything that is good must be embraced. And that was a good motto. And I really remind you, Dominica, fear no more. Fear the Dominica Labour Party. For the past 25 years, some of you supported this political party. Over the past 25 years, around Christmas time, you got a little harm, a little turkey. Think about it. The financial value of a turkey and a ham is no more than $500. So for 25 years, maybe in 20 years, for the last 10 years, you probably got ham and turkey. So 10 by 5, that is 50, that's $5,000 that you would have received from the Dominican Labour Party in 10 years. Brothers and sisters, Mark West, is that your worth? Is that your worth? $5,000 from a party? And because of that, you're afraid to support the opposition? That's a shame. It is really a shame. So, brothers and sisters, knock your head, touch yourself, wake up from that slumber, tell yourself, am I going to keep supporting something that's not working for me? You heard the previous speakers, you heard Mr. Charles saying that it is time that you step out of that frame of mind. You cannot continue like that. You heard Dr. Zura asking you, are you better off? In the last 25 years, are you better off? Guess what? In the last 25 years, brothers and sisters, we have more houses in the Kalinago territory. Some of which were funded by the World Bank. Some of which were funded by the CBI. And tonight, I won't get time to really speak about the citizenship by investment program. But yes, you got some houses. The Kalinago children have been doing better at school. Some have gone on to university. Some of you have gotten jobs in the public service. But think about it. Think about it. The basic needs are food, clothing, and shelter. So you have a house, but your fridge is empty. Some of you don't even have a fridge in the house. You got a new house, but your bank account is empty. You got a new house, but you still have to call uncle and cousin and sometimes even chase a politician to get a little money to buy a pound of flour and a pound of sugar. So Kalinago people, have you ready progress? Have you ready progress? Now, it really hurts my heart. And I spoke to my mother about that earlier. One of the main reasons why I'm here is because Dominica really is cradled in the Kalinago territory. The entire Dominica is cradled in the Kalinago territory. It is the Kalinago people who are the first people of Dominica. And the Kalinago people were known to be proud people. When the colonial masters came to Dominica, they had two main problems. Number one, to navigate the rough terrain on Dominica. And number two, to subjugate the Kalinago people. Kalinago people were resilient and very strong. They stood up in the face of adversity. Kalinago people over the years get a little canoes and move from Dominica to Martinique and call it to sell your produce. What happened to the Kalinago people? The Kalinago people wake up. You are not being used and abused by politicians in the government. Your ancestors, our ancestors, were strong people. They stood up for what was right. They stood for what they believed in. They did not compromise their principles for a dollar. They worked for what they wanted. So as much as we are grateful that this government has caused more houses to be built in the Kalinago territory, this government has contributed to the dismantling of the spirit of the Kalinago people. And it cannot allow that to continue. And it is evident that when we pass through the Kalinago territory, you do not see produce. You do not see produce on the roadside. Our young men don't seem to want to work. They want to drink and to smoke. That doesn't represent some people and the Kalinago spirit. Kalinago people were known to be hardworking, to be independent. It is time that we take back the Kalinago territory. Dependency syndrome. Get back into the business of working. And Residency says, let us talk about working. Talk about working. Yes, come back. This country, Dominica, including the Kalinago territory, have experienced a government that has sold passports after passports. We have sold over from 1990 was it 1993, since the CBI program was introduced in Dominica, we have sold possibly over 75,000 passports. So what does that mean? It means that we have sold more passports than the actual number of people who live in Dominica. Now, what have we done with that money? What have we done with these CBI revenues? We have not built factories. This government, the Prime Minister came here just last week to say that he loves the Kalinago people. To say that he is Kalinago, he's from Itasi, he's from Vekas. It is true that Vekas has a history of Kalinago people. For those who are not aware, Kalinago people were settled for Dominica, it was their land. So even some people in certain parts of Dominica who do not want to identify with the Kalinago people, they are Kalinagos. The people from San Jose, from Petit Supria, from Vekas, from La Plaine, from Petit Savan, not their history. So the Prime Minister came here, and maybe he's right, he's a Kalinago man, and he loves the Kalinago territory. But Mr. Prime Minister, do we have a cocoa factory here? Did you put a little factory to process cocoa into chocolate so the Kalinago men could go in the field to cultivate cocoa and to process it into chocolate? Did you do that? No. Do you have a processing plant here for fruits? No. Do you have any kind of factory here? Do you have a factory to process cassava to export to the Caribbean? The answer is what? So is it true that the Prime Minister is fooling himself when he says he loves the Kalinago people? But he don't love them. It's a lie. It's a lie. If you love somebody, you go selflessly to do what is in the best interest of the person. And what's on that? Do you really think this Prime Minister loves Dominica? Do you really think he's a servant? No, he's not. Servants will give their shirt on their back to make somebody else's life better. Servants do not get rich or wise in office. And I want to say to you, the people of Maui River, if it is God's will that I ever sit on the highest political front in Dominica, Joshua Francis will not get richer. If anything, I may be at risk of becoming less wealthy. Because a true servant gives, he doesn't take. And I do not want to talk about mansions and talk about bank accounts this man may have. I do not want to talk about the mission building in Roseau, the building right next to the credit union. I don't want to talk about that. Because a man who does wrong may escape in the eyes of man, but not in the eyes of the Father.
Mr. Joshua Francis presented there the Kalinaga people there in the Maho River on Saturday night.
You might be
There's some of it.
people acting like you don't have a clue. At every juncture and situation, you always seem to make the wrong choice. And when you reap it, you see that
I've been told there's some action in the Marigot area.
noise. And like a cycle,
Some roadblock or the other.
you refuse to learn.
I don't know what is going on. I'll try to find out.
Mentality is really equals for concern. Over there, we moving over there.
UPP
We give up out here. Or do we figure
is on the move.
Near, so we don't care. Over there, the whole country do there, like we stuck in a reverse gear. So we moving over there. 20 years a man in a chair.
I've been told that they've blocked the road because the road condition there.
Still the country facing despair.
So the authorities look into it. The big trucks,
We need change and the signs.
from what I gather, damage in the road, the integrity of the road there. So there's some road blockage there in the Marigot area. Hello, talk to me, yes?
Matt, just quickly, Matt, I want you to take note. I know, but keep a mental note, Matt.
Yes, yes.
The 10-year requirement, they have gotten rid of it. Matt, let us get rid of the incarceration requirement, Matt. Matt, you following me?
Mm-hmm.
And the underage requirement from 10 years to go up. Let us implement that requirement. Is Duverdale we going, Matt? Can we have people, children, vote from 10 years and to have prisoners vote, Matt, because they've been disenfranchised, Matt? These idiots, these criminals, Matt. I want you to remember that the 5-year requirement, not 10, is gone. So the incarceration too, I'm having to do requirement because you're not allowed to vote when you're in prison. Let us get rid of that and have prisoners vote. And let us start to have children vote from 10 years to go up, Matt. Matt says, please, Matt. Thank you.
We moving over there. Is it that we give up out there? Or do we figure the end is near? So we don't care. Over there, the whole country do there, like we stuck in a reverse gear. So we moving over there. We money build the mansion, I swear. Yes, we moving over there. We still paying for rent and care. Boy, we moving over there. Follow get house and think it is theirs. Well, we moving over there. Stand up and talk if you have no fear. Boy, we moving over there. Cause every time election is near, man, we could feel a change in the air. But money make all left we disappear. So we still moving over there. A snap election, a so-called reset. It's a way by you, he may take fire. He play long jump with our reforms, and you don't need to wonder why. We are Interpol.
All right, so right, 2 minutes to the hour, 3 o'clock. You just heard the presentation there, the Kalinago territory. The Mara River, to be more specific.
Like his cash in his back pockets. So when you're servant,
Read the UPP, the United Progressive Party there. The main spokesperson there for the time, Mr. Joshua Francis. Hello, talk to me, yes?
Matt, on another note, Matt, I listened, before you came in at 1, I listened to your brother's song again. Matt, what was wrong with that song? Can you tell me?
I was not a judge. I saw nothing wrong with the song, though. Nothing, absolutely nothing
There
wrong.
are a lot of songs. There are some songs that should not be inside, and that song is outside.
Okay. All right. That's this one there from Carl for P. I just cannot take it. Our next up.
okay, boss.
Flo Dominic is next. Hello, talk to me, yes? Uh-huh.
Matt, I want to congratulate Joshua Francis and wish him well. Very, very, very good address. My brethren, do what you have to do. We in a quagmire, a wet and sticky, swampy area. That's a quagmire. If you can help to extricate us, to pull us out, boss. Come on board, oh. Everybody, Matt, you have a party too now? And yeah, they say you have a party. Tell us.
Which one? Hello, talk to me on the telephone, yes? Uh-huh.
Yes, Matt, the song take off my mind. Yes, I came to congratulate Dr. Mr. Joshua Francis.
All right.
Good speech. Good speech.
I'm sure you'll hear from Mr. Francis again in the near future. 3 o'clock is the afternoon time. Our next stop, Flo Dominic.
It's getting hard in my land. Hard. It's getting bad in this island. Bad. Some say the country have a truth, because every day it getting worse. Look, my head starting to burst. Only pain and frustration under this administration. Man, this is too much corruption. Don't get run my land. Every day the people calling, cannot take it. Cost of living gets too high, I cannot take it. Financial money to buy, cannot take it. Too many shoes and member guy, I cannot take it. Life bill gone up, water bill gone up. The people calling, what you know, I what you know. Things are gone up, cooks gone up. Oh Lord, what is happening? Look it.
All right, just some pictures there from the Margaret area. Clearly, something is going on there.
Wrong. I can't buy feed to cook up wrong, cause it's wrong, and it's wrong. She said the country in a crisis, cause the government doing wrong business. Anything they do is for their own interest. It's only within a lane, so listen, kick a play. Ain't no about it, ain't no to play. Every day the people follow, cannot take it. Cost of living gets so high, I cannot take it.
On the telephone, hello, yes?
Good afternoon. I take this opportunity to say congratulations to one of the 12 wise men, Honorable Sir Joshua Francis. My brother, congratulations to you. I wish you all the best. God guidance, strength, life, more power, more money in your pocket for to help your people.
my brother, and people will talk, but don't feel bad. Talk your talk, but don't care what the world may say. Congratulations. This is hooray.
All right, Marlon, time for flow, Dominica. Thank you, Marlon. Thank you.
Dee-da-dum-ba-dum-ba-dum.